All right guys, so as you can see, the house is coming along. Sheetrockers have been getting after it. Been doing a good job. They are about, I guess they're 2 weeks in. So they've got about a week to a week and a half left, which that means I'm about, I guess how far along am I? I think I'm 14 days on the home theater. So I'm moving along pretty good as well. Hopefully I'm done in a week to a week and a half when they get done. That was the original plan. Now you see we've got bull nose on a lot of these edges. Yeah, but at the top, all of the verticals, or horizontals, I'm sorry, are all 90s. All of the verticals, we did bull nose. That was something the sheetrock guys, they never done. They weren't sure how it was gonna work, but it actually ended up working out well. I think it's gonna look good. And really, this is the area that made me do that. That bull nose with that straight line, I just thought it would look really cool. And anyway, just something different. They still gotta clean it up and do a little more sanding. All right, enough about that. Let's go look at the theater. So as you see over here, we got a bunch of ductboard. I've got to get the room finished painting tonight and get this ductboard back in there, out of their way. I've got so much dang ductboard. I needed to get it out of my way. So as you can see, we dropped our ceiling down here from 12 feet to 8 feet. There's the original ceiling up there. We've got the return air duct coming through, and that's going to be popped into the ceiling here. We're gonna have some can lights. We got 1, 2, we're gonna have a third can light over here. Now, this right here, these are actually removable panels. Projector is gonna be right here. So I needed some kind of way I could push this up and slide it out of the way. So when you're doing home theater, one of the things that you have to be able to do is solve problems, and that was the solution for that. And this whole ceiling is gonna be fabric ceiling. Those just aren't wrapped yet. So it's gonna look pretty nice. All right, so here's the theater. As you can see, I just got finished painting it. We hit it with some PVA primer. And as you can see, we got all of our lights cut in. We've got a bunch of little, they're about 3-inch can lights going in. Now on the primer, like I said, we use PVA. There it is right there. Now that stuff is cheap. It's about 55 bucks for 5 gallons, which $11 a gallon is very cheap for paint. Now the good thing about it is, if you notice your tape joints and your spots like this, that drywall mud is very porous, it soaks up paint. So what the PVA primer does, it helps, it seals the sheetrock so that when you actually hit it with the real paint, the expensive stuff, it's not being absorbed in some places and not as much in other places. It just gives you a nice coat. You'll use less of your actual paint by priming it with the PVA primer. And also works good on the wood. And as you see right here, we've got a 2x12 for this floating ceiling. I've got doubled up 2x12s. I called my inspector, and we're on a good talking relationship. You know, the way I look at it, I pay them a good bit of money to do inspections on this house. So when I have questions, I go to him, say, look, what do you think about this? I want to make sure it's going to pass. So my idea was, we've got two 2x12s nailed together up top. And here we have basically a jack stud that is nailed in and goes all the way down to the floor. We've got one on each side. So the 2x12s are resting on those. And then really the only thing the 2x12s are supporting is themselves and some 2x6s running here, there, and there. That, you know, some 1x8s that are nailed to the bottom. So there's not really any load, but I wanted something that's gonna be stout. You know, I mean, you can go up there and hang by it. You probably hang a car engine by it and it wouldn't bother it at all. Because I mean, it is double 2x12s. And this room is 16.5 feet wide. So anyway, so we've got that going on. And I mean, look how nice that white is. I mean, that's just 2 quick coats of PVA. We've got a nice ceiling. I mean, just a couple hours ago, it looked like that. So we've also got our corner columns in right here for our Triad Gold LCRs. These are an in-wall 6-inch deep in-wall speaker, very large speaker for an in-wall. But this is actually a very popular type of column. If I've done your plan, this is the exact same column that is spec'd in many of the plans using the in-walls. You know, for any in-wall, because we got to get those in-walls, just like any speakers, they need to be towed in because we want the room to sound good. So we have to control the angle, control the toe in, control the on and off axis so we can get the right amount of energy at the sidewalls and what we need at the seats. So all that is, you know, on your plans when I do your plans, and it's also in this room here. We have the same thing going on here, except of course there's no speaker in here, but you know, it's the same method. I did the same thing over there. You know, 2x4 framing, only I went with 2x6s, that the studs that flank the mains. So we've got 2x6s here and there, just to beef it up a little. With the MDF on top, you could have used 2x4s. The MDF is stout, but just a little extra something. And you'll notice we've got duckboard here. I've got a pile of it. I've got more duckboard out there. We've got a duckboard out of our ears here. My buddy at the HVAC shop really hooked me up. He didn't make much on this stuff. I think I got it for like $55 each. And these are 4x10 sheets of duckboard. So these are very large, they're rigid. And this is Owens Corning. This is their Quiet R series, but it's an FRK, so it has foil on one side, which is, we want that. And we're gonna discuss that in a second, but if you look at the other side, it's black. And so this right here is perfect, you know, for our panels. But one thing a lot of people don't realize is, if you look at this vent, supply vent, now I've got some overspray in there, but that black stuff, it's fiberglass insulation. It's the same thing that is in everybody's house. You've all got this. It's up there is a it's not rigid like this, it's semi-rigid. So it's more like a duck blanket. Sometimes people use a duck blanket, you know, for their acoustics on their front wall, like a 1-inch, you know, acoustic blanket. I can't think of the name right now, but really and truly, that's a far inferior product. You should be using duck board, not duck blanket. And here is some 1-inch right there. It goes on in a board. I mean, you see how stout this is. It's very easy to apply. It's perfectly flat. Your fabric can be touching it. Actually, you want it touching it because when you touch the wall, it feels like like a wall. So that is, I much prefer that over the blanket. But anyway, back to your HVAC system. This stuff is actually used, or the reason it's got the foil backing is guys or HVAC guys will use it to build plenums. They'll use it to build return air boxes. So the foil will be on the outside and they build the box, you know, like they're cutting plywood, basically like a little doghouse or whatever. Build a box and they'll tape the edges, and they've built it just out of this. So this black stuff is what the air is passing by. Now, of course, you got places, you know, where you can see actual insulation, the air is going by that too. I mean, if you look at those cracks, I don't know if you can see them, but I mean, it's not like it's a sealed system. And people freak out about fiberglass insulation and don't realize you've got all of the air supplying your house is passing through the stuff. Here we've got it behind walls. No air is passing by it. So don't freak out about that if you're okay with that. And everyone's okay with that because we all want air conditioning, right? It's just a lot of people don't understand or don't realize, you know, it's kind of silly to get upset over fiberglass insulation when it's up there. Now this is very similar to Owens Corning 703. It has a coefficient specs, they're as good as the better 703. Not all 703 is the same. They have different densities. This right here is some really, really good stuff. Like I said, it's perfect because of the black backing. It's just, you don't have to worry about any light bleed through, you know, with the yellow stuff. If light hits it dead on, there's a possibility with your fabric, you may see a little bit of yellow behind it. But honestly, in a home theater where you have all the downward lighting and you're not really looking like shining a flashlight right on the wall, even with the silver, with good fabric, you're not gonna see it anyway. And again, with the silver, some companies, if you've had room plans done by different companies out there, some of them actually have a scatter or reflection plate, and you can use that for reflection plate too. That's been done for years. Sometimes I'll use paper scrim, but you can also just flip it over. You can use shiny side out, and it's gonna give you some reflection. And then once you get low enough in frequency, you'll begin to absorb. So that's gonna be used where we need it because we don't wanna over-absorb the room. So we're gonna have a lot of that going on. We're also gonna have some slat diffusion going on in the room. Same thing that my clients get with the DIY, with the plans. There's the DIY option for the acoustics. So if you look at this picture here, this is the room we're mimicking. Of course, it doesn't have this feature up there. And we're gonna discuss some of the things going on with that in a minute. But so over here where this plywood is, we've got 1/2-inch plywood. We're gonna take 1-inch duckboard and it's gonna go up here. And so the 1-inch duckboard is gonna bring it even with this. Now our fabric track is going all on top of this furring. All right, So let's say our fabric track is installed here, and you can look at the profile of this one. It's got a 45 on it, so it's a real cool edge. It's gonna get attached here. I'll be using crown staples, and you can see that crack right there. Oh, little seam. That's where the fabric is going to attach. It's gonna get rolled into there. Well, we're gonna have 1-inch ductboard on top of this, and then we're gonna cover it with black fabric that's gonna, I'll just staple it to right here, and then the fabric track will go over those staples. And so it's gonna be recessed 1/2 inch below the rest of the wall. And then on top of that, we're gonna take slat diffusion, and it's gonna be installed. Much like the picture, it's something visual or visually stunning. When you walk in the room, it just looks good. Something to break up all the fabric. This may be stained wood. I may try to do concrete, you know, slats. I'm not really sure what I'm gonna do, but we've got the 1/2 inch backing back there that we can screw whatever we need to screw into it. And I can also remove it later down the road, install something different. All right, so up top, we're gonna be taking our ductboard right here, and we're gonna be spraying some spray glue on it and putting fabric on the ductboard. And this is a 4-foot section, that's 4-foot board, or a 4-foot piece of ductboard, 4x10. This is 4x8. So you're gonna have almost a full sheet here and a full sheet there. And we're gonna have some absorption, some diffusion up there, but it's gonna be wrapped in fabric. And then I'll slide the stuff in and just lay it right on top. Now the ductboard is so rigid, it's not gonna settle. So that works perfect. And then I can come in from the sides and I can put some insulation on top of it. We're gonna use that area as a base trap. Very effective base trap, actually, just by itself, because they're so far from the boundary. There's so much distance. I wouldn't even have to put anything to have a very effective base trap. But we're gonna put some more insulation, especially in the corners, just to do it. Now we've got speakers here, the Triad silver sats. So we're gonna have half pieces here. We'll have a 4x4 here that will be solid, you know, with ductboard, and this one will just be a framed out section that is just the transparent material so the speaker can, you know, do its thing through the fabric. And I don't think I pointed this out, but those holes up there in the top of the columns, those are base traps. I mean, we've got a corner right here full of insulation. It would be kind of silly not to use it. Now, these columns are gonna be wrapped in black fabric. The end wall right here is going to actually be visible. So we'll put the fabric in there, wrap it around the edges, and install the end wall. And the reason it's gonna be visible is because, you know, it's a Triad Gold LCR. It's a beast of a speaker. This is a demo room. So if a client comes here and wants to actually look at the speaker, you know, it's very impressive just to look at. So we've got that option. They can see the grill. It's magnetic grills, are really nice looking grills. Really awesome looking speaker behind that grill, so all that stuff's gonna be visible. So there's that. All right, the equipment closet, of course, we're gonna have the lighted poster. It's gonna light up when you walk in, built into the door. Door will swing open. Now here we're getting some shelves, so there's not gonna be any panels installed right now. Later I'll come and hang a panel behind the rack. And right here on this wall, you know, of course there's a bundle coming down for a rack, but this wall and this wall right here are gonna be like 7 or 8 inches thick of absorption. And up in there, you know, we have a speaker right there. You can see that speaker bracket for the, we got 4 in-room silver sats going in. So one's gonna be hanging there. One's gonna be hanging there. Of course, we got the 2 above the suspended ceiling. But so this wall is gonna be just one huge base trap as well. I'm sure most of you have heard the idea to take a panel hanging on a wall and space it off the wall. If you can get a few inches of gap between the panel, you extend how low it absorbs in frequency, which is true. So we've done the same thing here, only we're not going a few inches off the wall. We're going, you know, we've got 4.5 feet, I believe it is, from here to there. So it's basically a major base trap right here on both sides. And of course, we've got insulation going in there. We've got another base trap framed in here, right behind that speaker. So any SBIR issues with that speaker will be handled. Same thing up there. And on those corners, same thing as well. So even though they're not in walls, we're not gonna have any issue with the major drawback of having an in-room speaker, because we're gonna be handling or taking care of the SBIR. All right, so fabric track. All right, we've got a box of it. I mean, it's right there, and we've got a lot of fabric track going in this room. Everything is furred out. That's why we started painting. So the next step, I've got a little bit of fabric or furring to put right here, and then we'll start putting the track on. Now, of course, I got to paint this room black. I'm gonna be doing that here in a few minutes when I get done with this video. So the black is going to be here on that suspended ceiling and a little bit of this, this main ceiling from here, just where you can't see it anymore. We'll stop. And I mean, I'm holding the phone right now up to the top of the entrance header, and you can't even see the speaker brackets. So that's about where I'm gonna stop, where the speaker brackets are. We've got several different types of fabric track we're gonna be using, and the majority of it is going to be this one right here. As you see, it's gonna attach to this furring, and that's gonna fur it out 2 inches from the wall there for our acoustic material. And it's got like a double 45, so it's gonna look really cool. And you can see how it's gonna be rolled into this gap right here. It's kind of hard to open up, but it's got a pinch, but it comes with tools to make the job, a lot easier and quick. But once it's in, it's gonna have that 45. All the seams are gonna be 45. It's gonna look really nice. This stud that's supporting the 2x12s, the fabric is actually gonna be 1/2 inch over it. So you won't see it at all. So we're gonna have a navy suede here. Let's turn around and look at the other wall since the lights are, put them behind us. So we've got navy suede going here. Now this area here is gonna be all black. So it's gonna kind of tie the columns in, but we've got a navy suede coming here and right there. And then it's gonna transition on the back side of this feature right here, the slat diffusers, or slat diffuser wall. We're gonna go to a charcoal gray, and then a black column, and more charcoal gray on the back. And then in the entry, it'll be charcoal gray as well. So we're gonna have a transition of colors. I want the front of the room to be really good and dark. But on this side over here, on the back side, just something a little bit lighter, so it's not such a dungeon feel to it, and give it a kind of a nice, cool look. And then we'll have the slat diffuser wall will kind of help transition it from one color to the other. And as you can see in the corners over here, we also have some base trapping. We had a corner right there, so I had to do something with it, so we hit it with this column. And we did the same thing over here just to mimic the other side, so it looks nice and symmetrical. And it's gonna look like it's holding up that beam up there. That's gonna be wrapped in black fabric as well. So questions. If you guys have any questions, drop them down in the comment. Someone asked a question on the last video about the riser. Why don't you have rubber on the riser? They've seen people doing things like that. Why don't I have that? Well, first of all, there's no seats on this riser. There's no subs on this riser. The seats are gonna be down here. Valencia Tuscany seats is what we're gonna have in this room, by the way. Got a Seymour screen going in. They're all sponsors of the room. But, so they want to know why I don't have, well, I'm not trying to keep vibrations from getting into the concrete. Well, first of all, this is concrete. You take a sledgehammer, hit it over here, you're not gonna hear it in the bedroom. I mean, it's concrete. It's very, very, very dense, and this is why it's also used in schools. Schools use concrete and block walls because it's so effective at, stopping sound. Sound does not transmit well at all through concrete. So a subwoofer in this room, if you can't hear a sledgehammer hitting, you're not going to hear this. The subwoofers are not going to transmit anything worth a flip to even worry about into another room. Now we're going to be pressurizing the walls, of course. But that's another story. We've got staggered studs for that. But even in a room, say you had a suspended floor, the whole room was wood. And then of course, yeah, you could get some transmission, from a sub that's coupled to the floor. You could get it into the riser, say it's sitting on your riser. But why in the world would you try to stop energy from a sub that's being mechanically coupled to your floor? Why are you trying to, take this whole floor, which is basically, let's compare it to a mountain, and you're gonna try to isolate it from the actual floor of the room? That is silly. It makes no sense. Why tackle the mountain when you can tackle the elephant? Simply isolate the sub. Then nothing gets into your floor. Hopefully you already have a floor that like this, that has, an engineered decking that's extremely dense. Here's a review on Lowe's of this stuff right here. And like the guy says, you can drive a Mack truck on it. One guy left it out in the rain for a year, whatever. I mean, this is where construction is at. Some of the home theater designers are still in the past. You should not be, it doesn't make sense to do some of the things that people are out there doing. isolate the sub, stop the mechanical transmission before it even gets into your floor, before it gets into your riser, you know, your stage. Then you don't have to worry about it. Now, of course, you can go get SVS, you know, isolation feet if you want to pay 1,000% over, or you can just use ductboard. I mean, I've done this in the past. Here's a picture of my last personal theater. I mean, you could take a hammer and beat on the cabinet of the sub and it would not go to the floor because this is a compressed fiberglass, and I mean, we're using it to absorb energy. Sound gets into this right here, the energy from your sound, and it shakes the little fibers and it dissipates the energy, or the acoustic energy gets transferred to heat. So it transfers from one type of energy to another. Anyway, it's gonna do the same thing with mechanical energy. It will dissipate it as heat. You know your house isn't gonna burn down. It's not like it gets hot, but that's how it works. So you can use this. It's an excellent way to decouple your subs, your loudspeakers from the rest of the room. Just cut a little pad of that out and place them on top. You're done. You don't need to worry about your risers or your stage, you know, sending all that energy into the room. Now you're gonna have to worry about the acoustic energy, but that's because if you've got subs pumping out loud SLP, you know, at 20 hertz, the whole room is shaking, it's breathing. You know, you can hang it by strings and make sure it's not touching anything, and it's still gonna do the same thing because you're pressurizing the room at that point. So hopefully that answers the question on why, you know, for this riser, why don't I have rubber underneath it or something like that. Now, to be fair, I do have a construction background, so, you know, some of the people out there, they don't have that, or they're not interested in that, or, you know, I do a ton of research on stuff, just like sand in stages. That's already been debunked. There was a study on AVS where they measured sand in a stage, they measured fiberglass insulation, and there was absolutely no difference. And they looked for distortion, for any changes in frequency in the room, playing very low frequencies at very loud SLPs, no difference. So, I mean, all you guys that are hauling in the sand in your stage because someone told you that's what you need to do, it's not going to make an audible difference. Fill it with insulation, that keeps it from resonating. Use something to isolate the subs and the speakers from getting mechanical energy into the stage. And you don't even have to, you don't have to worry about it transmitting to the room. You don't have to worry about the stage or riser itself resonating. You're good to go. Doesn't mean you can't fill it with sand. If you want to do that, I mean, if that's what floats your boat, go for it. That's just, in my opinion, you're wasting your time and your back. All right, guys, so I need to jump in here and get this room painted, and then I've got to get all that ductboard right there back in this room. It's really freaking tight, kind of working on top of ourselves in here, but I'm trying to stay out of the sheetrocker's way. So I need to get this room painted and get this stuff back in here and that table full of crap. So let's go look at the house real quick for you guys that, give a flip, want to see it. Of course, we got one room system going in right here with the Paradigm Pro Series. This is going to be a 4.1.4 system. We'll be doing demos for YouTube in here, any equipment I might be reviewing, stuff like that. We could run a center at times, but for my general viewing, I just run a Phantom center. I only care about my two seats right here that are going to be centered. I've been doing that in my living rooms for, almost 10 years. And that's just the way I like it. Anyway, so over here, we're gonna have a speaker, and then we're gonna bounce that Paradigm Pro off of the floor to mimic a surround, because we have no place for a left surround. Our right surround is over there hanging out of the wall. We got some 12.2 or 14.2 hanging out of the wall for it. But anyway, this is a problem a lot of people have, no place to put a surround, or this could even be done with rears. Anytime you don't have a place, in an open concept room, there's just nowhere to put it. So we've got a bunch of speaker wire up there. We're gonna do some experimenting once we get in the house to see where we're gonna put it. We're gonna slide it back and forth until we get the acoustic image perfectly placed to our left where that surround should sound like it's coming from. Very similar to the concept with Atmos, reflecting Atmos. And it's gonna work great, have no doubt about it. All right, washroom. Nobody cares about a washroom, huh? Kids' bedroom, little kid's bath. Here's the master bedroom, and of course my ceiling, I took the program that I do the room plans with, and I designed the ceiling. And I made sure from no point in this room can you see that back wall. So it's gonna look like a floating ceiling. And over here we'll have our smart switches so we can tell Alexa to turn the tray lights on. And it's gonna look like the whole cavity, so it is lit up. It won't be just like it's just a lip, because it goes so far back, it's gonna light the whole thing up. So I think that's gonna look really cool. Master bathroom is coming along. Getting kind of dark in here, but so of course in here we're planning on doing the concrete walls, kind of like that European look, or it's kind of popular overseas. I don't know if y'all can see, it's getting dark. We've got a shelf over here. We've got 6 water jets, a 16-inch rain head LED. It's gonna let you know what temperature. If it's red, I guess that means, you know, red, don't touch it, it's hot. I don't know, I'll find out. All right guys, it sounds like it's about the rain cats and dogs outside. I've got to get in this room, get it painted black, and get all this crap put back in here. And then I've got a little bit of woodwork left to do. And then I'm gonna be starting fabric track. So the fabric track video is gonna be out probably in a week or so after you see this. So that's gonna answer a lot of questions, because I've had a lot of questions about the fabric track. And once the Fabricmate fabric track is on the walls, we can actually go and look at it, and I'll show you the tools, have them all laid out, show you what they do, show you kind of how it rolls or how it fits into place. And we'll go over the installation. There's tools to help with the install as well, how to get your corners lined up. Enough about that, and you get this room done, guys, so I will see y'all next time.